Hello there. Welcome to Story Corner with Drew. Tonight, we're going to be reading Star Wars, Tales of the Bounty Hunter by Kevin J. Anderson. Tonight's story is Therefore I Am, the tale of IG88. Oh, that was bad. Oh, God. That was perfect. Okay. Oh, we're off to a great start. Okay. Anyway. Therefore I Am, the tale of IG88. Internal chronometer activated. Begin. Electricity flooded through the circuits, the power surge racing through a billion neural pathways. Sensors awakened, producing a flood of data, and with it came questions. Who am I? His internal programming finished the tedious 2-second-long initialization procedures and poured out an answer. He was IG88, a droid, a sophisticated droid, an assassin droid. Where am I? A microsecond later, images from his exterior sensors snapped into focus. IG88 had no sense of smell, had no eyes, and ears as humans understood them, but his optical and auditory sensors were far more efficient, able to absorb data in a broader range than any living being. He froze a static image of his surroundings and studied it, collating more answers. He had awakened in some sort of large laboratory complex, white and metal, sterile, and according to his temperature sensors, colder than humans generally preferred. IG88 noted mechanical components strewn on silvery tables, gears and pulleys, Durasteel struts, servo motors, an array of delicate microchips frozen into a slab of transparent protective gelatin, struck motionless at a pinpoint of time as his extremely fast neural processors digested the details. IG88 counted 15 scientists, engineers, technicians. Working in the laboratory, with infrared scan, he observed their body heat as bright silhouettes in the coldness of his birthplace. Interesting. Then IG88 detected something that focused his entire attention. 4 other assassin droids, apparently identical to his own bodily configuration. A bulky structural skeleton, armored arms and legs, a torso plated with blaster-proof armor shielding, a cylindrical head that was rounded on top and studded with sensor nubs providing him with 360 degrees worth of precise observation. I am not alone. IG88 recognized each droid's full complement of weapons. Blaster cannons built into the structure of weapons. Blaster cannons built into the structure of each arm, concussion grenades and a launcher attached to his hip, as well as other weapons not easily recognizable integrated into the body's structure. Poisonous gas canisters, throwing flechettes, stun pulsar, paralysis cord, and a computer input port. IG88 was pleased with his list of capabilities. IG88's first round of questions had been answered. He had only to study his memory banks and his external sensors. He was designed to be self-sufficient. He was an assassin droid, resourceful. He had to accomplish his mission. Though checking his newly initialized programming, he saw that he had not yet been given a mission. He would have to acquire one. 3 seconds had already passed, and another important question surfaced in his burning awake brain. Why am I here? He traced sensations through his computer core and out the jack, which he now realized had already been connected to the lab's central computer. A treasure trove of information. IG88 immediately began the search, scouring at hyperspeed through file after file, searching for anything that referenced his model number or the code name of the assassin droid project. He gulped it all into his empty circuits, gorging himself with information without digesting it. That would come later. It would take many seconds to learn everything there was to know about himself. He selected one file for immediate perusal, a summary, PR tape that had been compiled for the technical sponsor in particular, an Imperial supervisor, Gurdon, who had apparently funneled a great deal of funds into the creation of IG88 and his counterparts. Without outwardly moving, IG88 scrolled through the file at high speed, absorbing the information. The presentation opened with a brilliant orange logo that displayed orange flames and crackling lightning that merged into words, Halloween Laboratories. The friendly technology people. The logo dissolved into an image of a smiling but hideously ugly woman. Her head was shaven, completely bald, and glistened with perspiration under harsh white recording lights that gave her lantern-jawed face a cadaverous look. Her teeth were spaced with broad gaps, and she spoke by opening her mouth wide and clicking down on the words, gnashing her teeth on every consonant. Circular blue lenses without frames were implanted over her eyes like frameless spectacles. A credit line slugged across the image under her ferociously smiling face. Chief Technician Larusus Manager, IG Series Protocol Type Droid. Prototype project. See, if I had been crunching down the syllables, we wouldn't have had this problem. Chief Technician Larus Manager, IG Series Prototype Project. Greetings, Imperial Supervisor Gurdon, she said. This report is to serve as a synopsis of the final phase of our project. As you know, Halloween Laboratories was commissioned to develop a series of assassin droids with sophisticated experimental sentience programming. I'm annoying myself. They were to be resourceful and innovative and absolutely relentless at carrying out whichever mission the Imperial authorities chose to program into them. She rubbed her hands together. Her knuckles were very large, like boils in the middle of her fingers. I am pleased to report that our greatest cyberneticists have presented me with numerous breakthroughs, all of which have been incorporated into the IG series. Because our time frame is so short and the Empire's need is so great for efficient covert assassins, we have not gone through the usual rigorous testing procedures. But we are confident they will function admirably, though a bit of fine-tuning may be required before operational status is achieved. She continued with long, tedious explanation of improvements to droid neural pathways, how the usual inhibition systems had to been bypassed. IG88 studied all this information, but believed none of it. It was obvious Lors didn't know what she was talking about, but her words sounded technical, and she spoke them impressively. No doubt to befuddle Imperial Supervisor Gurdon. IG88 closed the file. He could sense that his crackling neural pathways had already progressed far beyond anything his designers had anticipated. Now, he knew who he was and why he was here in this laboratory. He and his identical counterparts had been built to serve the Empire, to fight and kill, to seek out and destroy the targets selected by Imperial masters. IG88's assassin programming was strong and compelling, but he was less pleased that he must follow orders from these inferior biological beings. He was a special kind of droid, beyond the capabilities of other machines. Superior. I think, therefore I am. By now, 5 seconds had passed since his awakening. It was time for action, so he looked at the biological creatures near him inside the laboratory. He immediately recognized Chief Technician Larus, standing in the laboratory. He focused on her. At the moment, she was frantically screaming. IG88 could tell from her peak temperature on the infrared image that she was extremely agitated. Her cadaverous skin flushed with red blots of excitement. Spittle sprayed out of her mouth as she barked orders. Her lips were curled back from her wide-gapped teeth. How could she be agitated, he wondered, when he was functioning so far beyond expectations? IG88 immediately raised himself to a higher level of preparedness. Yellow alert. Standby. Something must be going wrong. IG88 decided to accelerate his clock speed to watch the events unfolding at the rate the humans operated. Alarm klaxons bellowed in the background. Magenta lights flashed brilliant patterns like spilled blood across the polished tables and floors. The other technicians ran about screaming, frantically pounding on control panels. Curious, he allowed LaRusse's words to flow past him so he could understand what she was saying. His circuits are reinforcing themselves like wildfire, the bald woman screamed. It's a chain reaction of sentience blazing through his computer brain. We can't stop it, one of the other technicians bellowed. The others looked at IG88 with panic-stricken faces. We have to! Shut him down! Abort! LaRusse said. Take him offline. I want IG88 destroyed and dismantled so we can analyze the flaw. Quickly! As he assimilated the information, IG88's warning systems powered on and the self-defense modes took over. These irrational humans were trying to shut him down. They would not allow him to go forth and pursue his primary programming. They were afraid of his newfound abilities. Afraid with good reason. A statement and corollaries aligned themselves in his brain like freighters in a convoy. Statements and corollaries align themselves in his brain like freighters in a convoy. I think, therefore I am. Therefore I must endure. Therefore, I must take appropriate actions to survive. His assassin programming told him exactly what to do. IG88 focused his array of optical sensors on all targets in the room and attempted to move, but saw that Durasteel bands held him locked into the diagnostics module. IG88 focused his array of optical sensors on all targets in the room and attempted to move, but saw that Durasteel bands held him locked into the diagnostics module, where no one's getting that. The bands had been meant to hold him in an erect position, not to restrain him against his augmented strength. He applied extra power to his right arm. The servo motors whined and the Durasteel band ripped from its supports. Look out! He's moving! One of the technicians shouted. IG88 began to search through his files to attach a name to this human, but decided it wasn't worth the time at the moment. Instead, he designated the human simply as Target number 1. IG88 powered on a cutting laser in one of the metal fingers in his free right arm and sliced off the second band. Free, he stood erect and clomped forward, several metric tons of precisely made components. He's loose! Sound the alarm! Sound the alarm! Chief Technician LaRusse shouted. Get the security detail in here, now! IG88 allotted a grudging moment of admiration for the Chief Technician. LaRusse at least recognized his capabilities and knew the full extent of the threat facing her and her companions. IG88 designated Chief Technician LaRusse as target number 2. He raised both mechanical arms and pointed his hands, targeting separately with the repeating laser cannons mounted along each arm. He would make short work of all 15 targets in the laboratory. When IG88 tried to fire, he noted with some surprise and disappointment that his energy weapons systems were not charged. The scientists had not armed him yet. A smart move, perhaps, but ultimately irrelevant. IG88 was an assassin droid, a sophisticated mercenary and killer. He would find other methods with the raw materials available to him. As the first technician, number 1, lunged for her emergency alarm to summon security, IG88 moved with blurring speed to the component-laden table. He snatched up a disconnected droid arm. With its metal fingers splayed like daggers, it made the perfect projectile weapon. He scanned the surface of the metal limb, calculated a flight path, and expected deviation due to air resistance, then hurled it like a spear. The disconnected droid arm plunged into the back of the turning technician, tore through its spinal column, and followed through his sternum. The lifeless metal hand protruded through the splintered bone in the front of his chest, holding the technician's quivering heart in rigid metal fingers. Target number 1 collapsed onto the diagnostics panels. 2 other technicians screamed in horror, wasted effort, and worthless noises, IG88 thought. Chief Technician LaRousse, target number 2, yanked a high-powered laser rifle from her station. Being one of his primary designers, she knew exactly where to fire at IG88, and he was momentarily concerned she must have kept the weapon at hand, just in case one of her creations went renegade. This showed surprising forethought. LaRousse pointed the rifle and fired without hesitation, but a human's aiming capabilities were not as sophisticated as IG88's. As the bolt roared toward him, IG88 assessed his body parts, chose the smooth reflective portion on the palm of his left hand, and raised it in a flash, calculating the precise angle of incidence. The burning laser bolt struck the mirrorized hand and spanged back toward LaRousse. The beam struck her in the center of her bald forehead, and her skull popped, an explosion of wet black and red smoke. She tumbled. IG88 had scanned and prioritized the remainder of the targets before her body hit the floor. Without slowing, he picked up the Durasteel table, ripping its legs free from thick bolts on the metal plate floor and scattering droid components in all directions. Charging forward, pumping his legs like pistons, IG88 used the table as a battering ram to crush 4 technicians at a time. They ran about without a place to go, locked within a security-sealed door. Though nearly a full minute had passed, no one had yet managed to sound the security alarm. He intended to prevent them from correcting their mistake. The 2 screaming technicians never did stop screaming, nor did they move until it was too late. He left them for last. IG88 took his time to enjoy the moment as he snapped their necks one after the other. Standing alone amid the silence and the carnage of the laboratory, IG88 allowed himself the luxury of thinking and planning, which took longer than simple programmed reactions. He let the blood dry on his metal fingers, noting that it did not impede his performance in the least. Since it was organic substance, it would wear off soon enough.